All right, Ian, we are in grading season. We've had many assignments come in, many more to return. So there's lots of issues that I know that we can and should talk about when it comes to grading in terms of using the technology that we have available in Blackboard. But what I was hoping we could focus on today is if you could show us some of the basics, some of the issues that come up when we're using and managing our gradebook.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Joel. So I'm just going to share my screen, and
Mm-hmm.
I've already gone into my Blackboard demo course here. And just a reminder that you can access the Grade Center by going into the full Grade Center here. And it shows you this grid view of all of your students and all of the assignments and tests that you have set up in Blackboard already. And that's where things sort of start for a lot of people. But what I think the best thing to do is to start by is just getting all of your columns into Blackboard, whether they're something that you do in Blackboard or not. Because Blackboard can actually make it really easy to calculate your final grades. You know, you don't have to go through all these insane spreadsheets and Excel formulas and all that stuff. You can let the system do that a little bit for you.
Can I ask? I've
Sure.
only got about a million questions on this issue, and so I might interrupt a couple of times. But I
That's
just
okay.
wanted to make sure that I understood what you were suggesting. And I know we're in December, so this is might be a little late to ask this question. But what you're suggesting is near the beginning of the term, usually, is to set up the grade book that reflects all of the assignments for the year. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, no, you can do it at any time. I mean,
Sure.
there's no time that you don't have to do it early on or not. But yeah, that's a good idea, just so you can kind of keep things organized and maybe make it a little bit easier for you to see and keep track of the marks as you go along.
And also maybe make it easy for the students to see what's coming to as they check
Yeah,
what's available.
we actually get a lot of questions in IT about, you know, my professor gave me this paper back. This was back when we could actually use paper,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't see it on Blackboard. What's wrong?
Oh,
Nothing.
you've been talking to my students then. Yes, okay.
No, it comes from all over the place, trust me. So
Okay,
for anything
onward.
that you're not doing in Blackboard, anything you're not submitting through Blackboard, you can just click create a column up here, and you can type in a name for that column. Final mark, or final exam, sorry. So we'll pretend this is an exam that's happening on paper. And then you have to enter in a points possible, and that should always be what you're going to grade it out of, not the course weight. So if you're going to grade this out of 100 points, type in 100 in here.
Okay, so the points possible are what we're grading it out of, not the weighting for the whole course.
Yeah, now
Great.
there is a way that you can, of course, you have to do your math on the front end. If you want to make it out of the course weight, you can do that. And then you just have to add them up and you're sort of done. But it is a little bit easier to let the computer calculate the weight for you. I like that because when I'm grading my own students' assignments, I like to grade out of whatever I want, right? I don't want to have to think about that math. Partially because I'm really bad at math too, but oh, now it's on the recording. Everybody knows.
Ian, this is a sidebar, but I had an English professor when I was an English teacher when I was in. This is how old I am when I was taking grade 13 English, and he would mark things out of 3 because that he would weight them ahead of time, so we would get grades back that was like 1.8759 out of 3. So anyway,
let the computer do the math.
Let the computer do the math. Yes. Okay.
So we can see here that I've got my final exam column. And these two things are things that we've graded in Blackboard. So I could go ahead and grade those as I normally would by just clicking down here and going into the attempt and typing in our grade. But to add a grade for this final exam here, all I have to do is click on it and then type in a grade and then push enter on my keyboard. And that grade gets recorded. Now, a few other things that before I show you how to actually do the calculated column in here, one thing I want to show you is that you can click on this down arrow and you have the option to hide from students off or on right here. And you see this little dot with the line through it, it means the students can't see that column yet. And that's really helpful because sometimes, you know, you want to release your grades all at the same time, or you want to make sure all your grading's done before the students can see those columns. So that's a really handy feature, but to calculate our final grade for this course, once you've got all of your columns sort of set up, you go to create calculated column, and you do a weighted column. We'll call this final exam, or final mark in this case, sorry. And then down here, all I have to do is click the columns that I want to include and bring them over one by one. And now all I have to do is type in the course weight. So this one's out of 25%, this one's out of 40%. And if you're bad at math like me, it gives you a running total down here. So actually it will make this 45 and this one 30. Now, the only other thing you have to know about this page is that you want to turn this off to no in this case. What this does is it determines how zeros are handled. So if you don't enter a grade, if it's set to no, it'll treat it as a 0. If it's set to yes, it'll just redistribute the weight around everything else. So always best to turn that to no. And then you have the option to hide the column right from here when you're setting it up. And then you click submit. And there is our final mark column. And as I were to go through and grade these items, that column would adjust, and that gives me my final grade.
Okay.
So yeah, really easy.
I feel I'm going to be watching this video 18 more times because these are really clear instructions, Ian, and you've really simplified the process. One of the things that I was noticing that I wanted to follow up on is that you weighted the assignments only in the final mark. Mm-hmm. Is it advisable or even possible from your perspective to have a column that displays the calculated grade out of whatever you determine it to be? So I mark my essays, for instance, out of 100, but then it's worth, is it possible also to do a weighted column where it's out of 35?
I know where you're going with that, Joel, but unfortunately, no, the column has to add up to 100%, or else it screams and the math just doesn't turn out.
Okay. Ian, as always, it's always a pleasure to talk with you, but it's always helpful to have you in this space guiding us through and making Blackboard, which in some cases can seem quite complicated, but really making it simple or easier for us to navigate it. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, no problem, Joel. Thanks for having me again.